Welcome, Ben, to the podcast. Can you tell the listener a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Ben, I'm founder of Sablevo Creative. So basically, we help construction companies win more work. Now, the way we actually do that is my background is I'm a graphic designer, so sort of graphic design, branding, web design, and then one of the main key differences, which sort of helps us in construction, is we help with like the layout and formatting of bids, because people are usually very good technically, but they might not be as good at the visual side of things. It's just whoever has time to throw something together. So we try and come in and we try and take that off the hands, which obviously construction that could run them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds worth of work.
Yeah, I mean, even one contract one would make like it worthwhile for them. I assume they're working with like multi-million-pound contracts with some of the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, it depends on the discipline, but like what they're going for is worth an awful lot than they would pay me for the whole year. So like, for example, I know that bidding it's very much a numbers game, right? So they're obviously not going to win everything that they go for. However, if they win, let's say 1 in 10, usually, and then they bring in the design element of things, and then it goes to like 2 in 10. Suddenly you've gone from, let's say, for round numbers' sake, it's like £100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's £200,000. If you're paying someone 2 grand a month to do whatever, suddenly that investment pays for itself easily.
Yeah, and it makes them seem so much more like reputable as well. Like people see, oh, if they're doing the branding right, then hopefully they're doing everything else right. So
Yeah, of course. I think the key thing is so once you get to a certain level, as much as everyone says that they're the best at what they do, the actual thing is the margin's very, very thin between the best and the worst. Everyone's capable of actually doing the work, but the key thing is that it's how you get that point across, because the portfolios are going to be very, very similar. Obviously, they're going to be different projects, but they will be sort of similar style of projects and things like that. But if your key bit of information is lost in like a massive sea of text, whereas one person lays it out slightly better, they get that message across in a lot more sort of succinct or a lot more effective way. That can be the difference between sort of winning someone over and not.
well, take us from the start. Where did you start in your business journey, and how did you get into being your own boss?
So I actually made my first business when I was 15-year-old. Started freelancing like locally, just local projects. I initially my mum and dad helped out at some sort of community project, and I started getting a few jobs through there. When those went out and online, it was more like social media posts and flyers and all that sort of stuff back in the day. Other people locally and other businesses locally started asking me to do stuff, family, friends, people like that. So I say it was my first business, but like at 15 you are just, you're making a couple of £100 a year or whatever, but at 15 you're buzzing with a couple hundred
Yeah,
quid.
because you got like no expenses. It's just
Yeah,
like I was doing one. I started like gardening. I was like, oh, I'm doing this for £30 a week. Oh, like how many weeks is it going to take to save up for like this? It's like
yeah.
you start counting up like these tiny numbers, but
Of course you
yeah,
do. I mean, if someone, you start somewhere, like you obviously don't have the experience to charge the money that I charge now, and it takes time to build that reputation, build that portfolio, things like that. But I was doing that on the side, and then I obviously went to Huddersfield Uni and did my graphic design. When I left uni, I worked somewhere for 3 weeks, a company called Pitch Hero, who do like websites and apps for sports teams. Went in there as like a freelancer on a short-term contract. Got to the end of that contract, and I'd been living in a hotel for the whole time I was there because it was in Tingley near Leeds, and at the time I didn't drive. So I thought, right, this isn't really sustainable. So I looked for jobs sort of here, there, and everywhere. And it just so happened that when COVID come around, I was unemployed. So I sat there and I thought, right, this is an opportunity because they don't want people to go in house. It creates more of a demand for outsourcing. So originally I started just freelancing as a stopgap because I didn't have a job. That stopgap lasted 3 years, and then it sort of just grew from there. So I did that from ages sort of 21 up to just before I was 24. And then I got ill for quite a while, went back in-house for 3 years, and then I've recently sort of started up on my own again. Same business, but focused on construction.
Yeah, very good. So with graphic design, branding, do you create like all the branding documents and?
Yeah. So for some companies, if I do branding, I can do like the company logos, I can do the naming, I can do the whole brand guidelines behind those. I can do all the sort of the marketing materials that go with it, whether, that might be a letterhead, a business card, all these sort of standard things that companies use internally to sort of just give them that better like first impression really. But yeah, the graphic design spans across sort of anything. So it could be exhibition stands. If someone's going to an exhibition stand, you've got your roll-out banners, you've got all these sort of signage, things like that. It can even be something as sort of grand as like wall art. I had someone speak to me the other week about the redoing a warehouse, and they wanted it to be a nice space to work in. So they wanted to get like sort of decals all along the wall, and they wanted to have that up and make it a nice space to work in, but they needed someone to design it, to sort of brand it up as a whole, as like a space really.
So yeah, all kinds of cool work. I mean, AI has been taking over this like space. I won't say taking over, but filling gaps, but filling them not very well. Like, what are your opinion on that? Like, there's some absolute like it seems to be a theme with like slightly scruffy local like pubs and venues. Yeah. They're like the worst for these posters that are just awful. Like, I don't know, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I think AI, it's like obviously people have slated Canva for years. It has a purpose, right? So people who have zero budget, they can produce something that looks a lot better than it would do normally, right? So it does have a purpose for people with zero budget. However, you look online and you only have to scroll for any form of social media. A lot of the designs are the same because people can't actually prompt them to the level that they want to be able to get something unique out of it. And that is what I believe AI will do in marketing. So some roles within marketing will become people who are very good at prompting AI, or it might speed up certain elements of marketing. But it's like anything else, AI is a software in its own right. So just like you could have learnt Photoshop for the last 10, 15 years, you haven't, and someone pays me to do it. Someone else is going to have to learn to do AI, and they probably don't have the time to learn it to get to the level of output that they want from that. So they will eventually just pay someone else who is capable of doing that.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, because like, I tried learning Photoshop and all the Adobe like Illustrator and all that lot, and it does take a long time to learn. So maybe if you did put the same effort into AI, maybe you could get outputs like as good, or if not better. So
yeah, I think the thing is with AI is you only have to look in like sort of the last year or so how far it's evolved. Like if you think about where it's going to go in the next 5 years, like the output probably will turn out to be quite good, because at first when people were making imagery on AI, like you could tell instantly, and it was like, oh, someone's got 6 fingers, like was the running joke. Whereas now, you can actually, on some of them, if someone knows how to prompt it properly, you can tell with a trained eye, but most people won't be able to tell.
Yeah, if you're not looking out for it, it just passes,
Yeah, so I think over the next few years, if you can actually master how to prompt those software, as I was referring to them as, I think that you will be able to produce like a very good output.
Are you incorporating them into your workflow? Have you been practicing it and experience?
Yeah, so I do with some elements of things. I think for me, it's the ideation phase. So where traditionally you might have to sit there and you might have to think for days, you might have to mind map, you might have to try and get all these different ideas come into you. I think if you have something or you have a basic idea, you could use AI to like come up with different starting points. So you could use AI to expand upon points. And I think that's really powerful because it affects both the end user and my own business, because if I can speed up that process, obviously I can then get more clients in because I'm speeding up that process. But also, it might actually reduce costs on the client end, because if something before was taking me like 5 days to do and suddenly it takes me 3, The cost probably isn't going to be the same. And if AI can speed that up, I think it'll be a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, definitely, because you're providing the same value but at less of a cost to you. You can take on more clients and...
Yeah. It depends how you want to go down it.
Yeah.
Some people still charge the same because you're getting the same output.
Charge on value rather than cost.
Yeah, which you have to do to an extent.
But it's a market and people are going to be more competitive because they can afford to charge less. So.
Yeah, I mean, graphic design's always been a very race to the bottom sort of industry anyway, because you can go on something like Fiverr and you can find someone who will do exactly what I will do for like £15, right?
Yeah.
Because they do it for £15, does that mean they're any good at it? Not necessarily, but will they do it better than the person who's hiring them? Probably. And it's, again, like I said before, it's every single, as much as I could sit here and I could slag off the people who are doing the £15 designs, they're doing it better than the other people, so it does serve its purpose, and it serves its purpose for like an entry-level business. It's just that they're not the people who I would work with.
Yeah, you're targeting more of a high-end client.
Yeah, so like the clients who I tend to work with are slightly more established, so generally at the moment I work with people who are around 5 to 20 staff. We have got people who are bigger than that, we've got people who are smaller than that, but generally that's where I tend to find there's a sweet spot, because if you go too small, the issue with smaller businesses is there's a dependency on the owner of the business, and marketing's only as good as the information that you receive. So when you're waiting on information because the owner is actually, they're not only running the business, but they're actually doing the delivery of the work as well, it makes it very, very difficult, because they don't have the time to prioritise and actually give you what you want marketing wise. So yeah, you need a certain level of business where they have people to do the day-to-day, which then enables them to spend the time that they need to make your work effective as well.
Yeah, and I find as well the issue with really small businesses is the money that they are paying you, they would otherwise be paying themselves.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more of like a personal connection to it.
Yeah, of course. I think the thing is when businesses like that tend to have to save up, or they have to make a sacrifice in order to like pay you for that amount. As you say, that then means that the money is worth an awful lot more to them. So I always used to joke, right, that when I was running my first business, at the time I was 21, and I did the whole thing of, right, let's do things for a few £100. Those clients, in terms of like revisions and things like that, absolute nightmare. They'd go on for ages, and the project would never really be finished. It'd always be like, oh, can we just do this?
Oh
can we
yeah,
just do
definitely.
that?
I relate so much. It's like...
And when I got my first job that was like in the thousands of pounds, it was like, no changes, we're done, here you
Great
go,
job, thank
paid
you.
in 4 minutes. You're like,
yeah, where's the invoice, rather than like, where are all these revisions?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's because they run more successful, more affluent businesses, and it's measured at the same thing. So what is, for a smaller client, if they're spending £200, whereas if you've got a bigger client and they're spending £2,000, the £200 is a bigger investment for the original client, whereas the £2,000 might be a drop in the ocean for a massive client.
Yeah. So when was it that you went full time? You've only been doing it a couple of months, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've run this business for around about 1.5 years now. However, I went full time with it in March. So yeah, it took a little while to build it up. I worked for a company, an architecture practice. I was head of marketing there, and they were reliant on one industry, so they worked on the railways.
Yeah.
And the funding for railways got delayed for quite a while. It comes out once a year, so they cut our team shorter. I was one of the people who got cut down to 3 days a week, which in a way was a blessing in disguise, because I wanted to start my own business again, because I only ended my first one because I was ill, so I never really ended it on my terms. And it gave me the opportunity to build something up on the side. So I still had the money coming in that paid for all my sort of expenses, my flat, everything like that. And then I could build up on the side. I mean, within the first month, I think I had the blessing of, when I went to the architects, I was also the only person who did business development for them. So a lot of people, when I said I was going full time, had seen a case study in real life for 2 and a bit years at the time. So I filled up that availability of those 2 days within the first month or so. And then I was like, right, I want to stabilise it and I want to get used to this balance. It got towards the end of last year and I was getting more people asking me to work and I was turning them away because I didn't have the time. So I just thought, right, I need to push on and I need to make a jump for it, which is obviously, it's always, no matter how prepared you are for it and how much demand there is, it's always an intimidating thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. How do you go about getting clients? You say you're filling up
Yeah, so part of it is, as I say, so I've obviously been doing this for a long time now, 12, 13 years. So in that time, I spent loads of time networking. So my whole career has basically been built on networking, to the sense of, when I started that first business, at 21, you don't really know anyone fresh out of uni. So what I did was I spent 6 months just from about 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. I took advantage of it being COVID and I used to sit on Zoom calls all day, every day. And I just grew my network that way. Then when it went out into face-to-face, I obviously carried on networking, things like that. Even when I got the job at the architects, it was through someone I knew in my network. So the business coach of the architects recommended me to work with them. So yeah, everything that I've done sort of throughout my career has always been network. Some of the clients that I have worked either with the architects or I knew through my networking at the architects. And then the only other thing that I really do besides networking is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I've been fairly consistent with my LinkedIn posting now for coming up to about 6 years. Post sort of at the moment 3 times a week. And yeah, that's, as much as it doesn't maybe get the engagement on paper that you'd like, it's amazing how many people are lurking in the background.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how many likes you get, but I only get 10 likes on my posts and stuff. But whenever you meet people, it's stuff I've seen you being posting, and when I go out, LinkedIn warrior, is always posting and stuff like that. Even if they don't necessarily press like on the post, but what's the point in pressing like? Really, it doesn't really do anything. So
no, I think that's, as you say, I go to all these networking events, and what I tend to find with them is every single person, well, not every single person, that sounds very arrogant, but a lot of people come up to me and they go, I've been seeing what you're doing on LinkedIn, and they'll know stuff about my week, or because I do this video update every single week, just sort of running through my week since I've gone full time. And a lot of people know what I've done in my week, and they'll be able to tell me what I've done. And it's weird in a way, because obviously I don't know that they know that because they've never engaged, but it is interesting what people pay attention to.
Yeah. Oh, so you post video to LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Because they've just introduced short form video to LinkedIn.
They have, yeah.
Just after I've released about 5 short form videos that flopped, but I feel like now these videos will perform a lot better because the platform is more tailored to it.
Yeah, so last year they tried to introduce on the app a video bit, which was a bit like the Reels sort of idea. Because I still am part of it, I just haven't been for a long time. I'm part of the LinkedIn editorial group, which is basically they've got 1,300 people in the UK and Europe who LinkedIn selects to have 2 calls a month, and they run through what's where's the direction of the platform, what trends are they seeing. And they've always said, when I used to go to those, that they want the platform to go down more of a video route. That was the direction at the time, towards the back end of last year. I think that's what a lot of social media platforms are doing. I don't know whether it's due to attention spans, grabbing attention, all that sort of stuff, but it is interesting because I think a lot of people, particularly the more traditionalists on LinkedIn, shy away from video, but I think it's a really effective way to show your personality in particular.
Yeah, I find with social media platforms, they're all blending into the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we've got, so it was originally stories on Snapchat, and like Instagram was photos, and then Instagram introduced stories, and then Snapchat introduced short form video, and it's like, and then TikTok introduced stories and short form video, and now you can post photos on TikTok, and they're all just turning into the same thing.
Yeah. I think it obviously helps that Meta are starting to own all of them.
Yeah, maybe they'll just combine them all into one thing. Like
I think one of the things is so like I back in the day used to do a lot of LinkedIn management. Like when I was in house, I ran 5 LinkedIn accounts at once, and it was so much easier to do it back in the day because even I say back in the day, it was like 3 years ago. Even back then, like we could generate loads of views. Like I think in a year and a half at the Architects, we did something like 750,000 in views, which sounds very impressive. But back then, it was so much easier to do because it wasn't as saturated a platform, and it was almost clear. Like you could easily work out what was working and what you could really push and hone in on. Whereas now, it feels like it changes so often that it's just so hard to understand what's going to do well, what's not, what you think is going to do well. You put it out there, and then, as you say, you end up with like 2 likes and a few hundred views.
Yeah. Some of my posts literally have 2 likes. And I'm like, oh, it's just so unpredictable. Like, what have I done wrong? Like,
yeah, I mean, obviously, I try to say to clients like, that's not why we're doing it. Like, you want the right engagement.
Yeah. What's the metric that actually moves the needle? And likes does not matter.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing which LinkedIn does is it can break up your audience on the viewership, so you can actually see like what percentage are in the construction industry, or you could see what percentage of people like managing directors, or what like the hierarchy is. And I think that's like the metrics that you should really be focusing on. Like, is it going out to the right people? Because impressions, I mean, I forgot what the actual what defines an impression, but it's like a split second that it has to be a certain percentage of the post on your screen. And like, that's not really going to do much. So
basically you've just been on someone's screen for like the slightest amount of time. They might have not even looked at it. They might have scrolled past it.
Of course, yeah. So it's like, as much as people hone in on the whole impressions thing, and I mean, I obviously mentioned impressions a second ago, it's good, but it obviously then has to be the right people viewing it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I find different platforms have a different value of viewer. So like TikTok's at the bottom. Like it's a very passive audience, and most of them are like not really. Is my ICP on TikTok? Maybe, but they're not in a definitely not in a work mood. They're probably not even present. They're just mindlessly scrolling.
Yeah.
And then like Instagram is actually a bit more valuable, I find, and I prefer their algorithm personally. It feeds more valuable content, more engaged. And then like LinkedIn, the numbers are so much smaller, but people are in a work mindset when they're looking on there.
Yeah, I think it depends on the business. So I think if you look at the B2C space, then TikTok and TikTok Shop are absolutely huge. Like there's people, P. Louise, the makeup woman, she did over £1 million in like 24 hours on the TikTok Shop, which if you're selling a product, I think TikTok Shop has its own place. Instagram is more effective, Facebook's more effective. But in terms of if you're dealing business to business, a lot of the time, like I was saying to you the other day, once you reach a certain size of business, they've got a social media manager. Like it's what size of business you want to deal with. If you want to work with, a one-man band, they're obviously posting their own stuff. So, that is a good place to reach them. A lot of tradies and things like that use Facebook. It's a good place to use. It's just about understanding like your ICP, where they hang out. That's the key thing. Because sometimes your ICP might not be people who use social media. It could be people where you've got to attend a certain type of event. You've got to understand what type of thing they're going to. It might be, obviously there's a lot of business done on golf courses. Do you get a membership at a golf club? It's all that stuff. It's understanding.
I've got this membership purely to network.
Yeah, there's people like one of the bits of advice I got years and years ago. At the time, I think I was 22. I was working a lot with financial companies doing their branding and marketing, and someone went to me and said he owned a very big insurance company. He'd sold it for millions of pounds. He went to me best thing you'll do, learn how to play golf. He said, you can try get a meeting with most of these people, they won't give you a meeting. He went, if you go to them, do you want to play golf next week? They'll find time because they want to play golf. They don't necessarily want to talk to you.
They want a buddy to go and...
Of course, yeah. But with golf, the other, like, the good catch about that is you've got like 4 hours of them just uncommitted time and you're on your own.
It's the same with the podcast, like... It's a value exchange, and you just get to talk to people for like an hour and a half and stuff. Yeah.
I think, obviously, for you, I think the beauty of the podcast, and I'm sure it's the same with lots of others I've been on, is that you get to talk to people who are maybe in positions where they've either got successful businesses, they might be further along the line than you, they might be at a similar point than you. But then you get to either share their wisdom, you get to basically ask them questions for free. But then on the other side of things, if they're in a similar position, you get to like see that it's not only you who's going through that, and you can sort of understand the struggles, and it's good validation for you to understand where you're at as well.
The podcast is great. It's like it doesn't pay at the moment. Hopefully it will pay eventually, but like just the value and the personal brand stuff, and like almost puts you on this, gives you this false sense of status kind of thing to people. Like, oh, he's like for the guests as well. They must be they're important enough for someone to ask them to be on their podcast. Like they must be doing something. So yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's it's an overused sort of buzzword at the moment, but it's the thought leadership and sort of personal brand thing, isn't it? It's as I said before, like. There'll be clips today where both you get value off it because you can post it online. I can then use that to talk about my own stuff as well. But it's a win-win situation really, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily see it as that. I think a lot of people see it as, oh, this is this like shiny thing where I'm just going to go on a podcast, and it's a bit like a vanity metric. So they're like, oh, it's just me talking my own self-importance. But the actual thing is that it gives you a really good opportunity, particularly if you know the audience that you're speaking to get in front of them and get to them in a time where they're trying to learn something new and they're trying to maybe expand the horizons. And if you can really, you can showcase your knowledge in a lot deeper level than what you might be able to do for a social media post or in a small exchange, I think that gives you a lot more credibility to move forward with.
And it's a lot more of a natural platform as well. Like speaking to your camera on your phone can be quite uncomfortable. Like it's something that I need to do, but been putting off for ages. But talking to a person is something you do all the time. So
yeah, I think that's as you say. So the videos that I do once a week on LinkedIn, they are literally just me running through my week. I've got my phone in my hand up here, and it's just talking. And they are way harder to do than something like this because you're on your own. You're trying to memorize everything that you've said, and you're thinking, oh, I need to shove this in, or whatever. And you end up doing so many takes of them. You do get better at them naturally, don't get me wrong. But when you do something like this, like it just feels like you're having a conversation. It's more fluent, it's more natural, and you don't tend to realise how much value that you actually end up giving out just through just the topics that pop up.
You mentioned that you stopped drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, was there a breaking point, or was it just something you thought about for a while and then just decided to do?
So I've always gone through phases with it. So I used to play badminton like at national level for quite a few years, and in the lead up to tournaments I'd always stop drinking because it just meant that you were a bit more focused, you were a bit more sort of on it. And I've never really been a big drinker. I think I got into it originally because when you go to university, sort of, at that age, you really have to. Otherwise, I say you have to, you don't. But
people think something's wrong or you're a bit weird. Like, why don't you drink? Yeah.
It's to make mates and to live that sort of lifestyle and the uni lifestyle, you really have to throw yourself into it and you have to drink. So I did it for that initially. Around the time of my first business, I did stop for just over a year, and then lockdown was eased, and I thought, right, you need to go out and live life, and you need to go experience stuff. So I started drinking again for a bit, but then the same sort of things hit me, and it was like I don't really feel like I enjoy this. Like the environment, like multiple things, so like the environments it puts you in. Like I always find that on nights out, it might just be where I go, but you find that like there's a lot of questionable people. It's always a bit like overly crowded. Someone might kick off on a night out. There's always something going on. And I just sort of thought I don't really like these situations. Like I eventually become a day drinker. Like not in the sense of I'm a raging alcoholic, in the sense of I just prefer the thing of we go out in the day and I go home. Yeah. You go home at a sensible time and
then the next day isn't ruined.
Yeah. And I got into that whole thing, but then I got to the point where I was like, hang on a minute, like I'd be just happy sitting there with like a Coca-Cola, you know what I mean? Like,
and it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper, but it's like I get the same level of enjoyment out of it, and then I can go home at the same time, and like now it's weird. So as I mentioned to you off camera, I live sort of in Manchester, just a street off Deansgate, and Deansgate, for people who don't know, is like absolutely massive long street. There's bars pretty much all the way down, and if I go out there on a weekend, you can see, like, even if I go out at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's people hammered, there's people on the floor, there's people being taken home at that time. And my perspective on it now is that as someone who has been there and done that, when I first left uni, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was living for the weekend, and I was like, right, let's go out on a weekend. I was still going out on a Wednesday because it was student night, and I'd come back to Huddersfield and go out on a student night, go to Camel back in the day.
Yeah, before it shut down.
Yeah, and I just think, I come up with this thing, I said it on another podcast recently. If you're like the big man on a Saturday night, you're usually the loser on a Monday morning. And like, I would rather be someone who enjoys the majority of my week and focuses on that and trying to build something, because I get fulfillment out of this. I get fulfillment out of, I'm trying to do something that I haven't done before. I'm trying to improve myself along the way, and I'm trying to get better in order to do that. I get a lot more fulfillment out of that. And alright, it means you do have sacrifices in your social life. So obviously, because I don't drink, a lot of my mates do drink. They're like, oh, we don't want to invite you to a night out or anything like that, which, fair enough, I don't really want to be on the night out. But you find other ways to socialise, and you also find out that some people purely just want an extra number on a night out rather than you actually being sort of a friend to them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I'm like the same with drinking. Like, I don't particularly enjoy it. It's stupidly expensive when you compare it to other things.
Yeah.
Like, people... Like, you buy a premium meal deal, and people, you bought the premium meal deal. It's like an extra £1.50, and it's like, and that's the price of like a single drink on a night out. It's like,
yeah.
And people are so tight during the week, and then they'll happily spend like £80 on a night out, and it's like,
yeah,
it's not worth it at all. Like, there's so many other things you can buy with that money, and
it's not. I think one thing that I realised when I first moved into Manchester, I was drinking, I was going out. Like, you can spend £150 on a night out easily. And I remember being in somewhere just before I stopped, and I used to drink, towards the end, I used to drink bit girly drinks. I used to drink Malibu and Coke.
No, I do the same.
And I went somewhere, double Malibu and Coke, £18.50. And I thought, I can spend £100 there and just be like feeling a little bit tipsy, like this is not worth it at all. And like now, the longer I've been away from drinking, I think I'd rather spend it on a nice meal. I'd rather have a nice meal on a weekend. I'd rather spend it on an experience or something like that, because I think for me, I look back at my life, I'm 27, like, it's not like I've got that far to look back, but I look back at all the things which I think, those are like the highlights of my life, and they're always like experiences, they're always like moments or things like that. I don't really look at many nights out and think, oh, they're the things that I miss. obviously there is some funny stories off them, and there is
But
some.
you pay for it the next day.
Of course you do. And like at uni, look, we had some fun times. We used to go out, fancy dress every single week, all that sort of stuff. And you do have some good memories, but the majority of my memories from uni are nothing to do nights out. And I think it just puts into context, like, as you get older, I think some people calm down and like they might go out once a month, they might really sort of reduce it, and some people just will carry on forever and that'll be their thing.
Yeah, just get a bigger and bigger beer belly as the years progress.
Yeah, and I think that's just this is going into a whole deeper topic here, but basically where I lived at home at my parents, there's a pub at the bottom of the road, right? And I would always see the same people, because we live on a massive hill. So I would always see the same people walk past and walk up. So they'd walk down, and you'd see them come back about 4 hours later. We got a chippy at the bottom of the road. They'd come up with a blooming pudding and chips or whatever in their hands. They'd walk back up the road. And I remember thinking, even from a young age, I was like really hyper aware of that. So I've always been someone who, I notice a lot of things. Like I'm very, very aware of everything that's going on around me. And I used to always think like, I just don't want to be that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the person who's got into this routine of you go to work, you go home and you go to the pub, and then you get some chippy on the way home, and that's it. And it's just a rinse and repeat cycle. That, like, one of my biggest fears, and some people find this really, really strange, is I never want to be a regular somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, there's nothing more depressing than families that have been to the same all-inclusive hotel for the past, like, 20 years. And, like, they know everyone there. Like, I've seen some TikToks about it recently. I'm like, oh, even the idea of an all-inclusive hotel is just so depressing. Like, you are purely going somewhere to indulge and, like, You're not seeing the place. You just, like...
Yeah, it's, for me, when people say, they want to go on holiday, if it's a sunbathing holiday, sit by the pool, I'm not interested.
I don't even bother.
Like, the whole reason I go somewhere is to experience that city, experience that place. Like, I want to be out and about. I want to be doing loads of steps a day. I want to be going seeing things. Like, even if it's like... So I made a habit of places that I go, I like to watch football games.
Yeah.
And just because, obviously, English football culture has a big sort of... notoriety, but it's interesting to see, like, when you've got no allegiance to either team, it's just the atmosphere in some of the places. When I went to Lisbon, I went to watch Benfica. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done. Like, different ground. I don't care about the actual game, but the atmosphere was amazing, and like the way they do things, like, it's so different. Like, it's a whole day and you stay around the ground and there's food, and it's so cool just seeing like how different cultures go about things differently to us.
Yeah. No. Yeah, my dad used to like force me to go and watch the football, and like I was never really bothered, but yeah, the atmosphere is like, did you ever go to Huddersfield to watch them? Like that, when that stadium's full, it is actually like a really good atmosphere.
Yeah. So the season they got promoted to the Premier League, I went to pretty much every home game in the Championship, because they used to give us like cheap tickets at university, so we'd get like £5, £10 tickets, and like with me, I'll watch any football game, right? So like I go watch Burnley. I'm a Man United fan, really. I went to watch Rochdale at Wembley last month. Like, I'll watch any level of football just because I absolutely love football. But part of it is like that buzz on a match day. Like, even if you go, so as I say, I've been to non-league games where there's like, 30 people stood at the side of a park pitch and stuff. But for like, the interesting thing is, for those like 20, there's 20 people there. And like, for those 20 people, their weekend's happiness depends on these random blokes who all have a job, and they're all just like a plumber or something. And it's so interesting. I love the whole like atmosphere. I love the whole like investment in it that you can get and what it brings around it.
I don't know if you've ever been to Emley football stadium.
Yeah.
It's mad. It's this tiny village of like 200 people. but the stadium holds 2,000 people, and
Yeah.
it's mad what that like does, and apparently like the fans like proper
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah. So one of my mates, his friend, played at Emily for a bit, so we went to go watch him a couple of times, and
Yeah.
it is good. It's what I find is that when the smaller the level you get, the more invested people get, because if you're going watching, I don't know, say like a Man United, most of the time, I mean, it's not necessarily the case over the last few years, but most of the time, you're going to be like happy because you're seeing a high level of football, you're seeing people winning. But then if you go watch like a non-league team like that, you go into some not very nice places, you're watching a standard of football that isn't very good every week. If you stood in the rain, you actually stood in the rain, you're not in a stand. And it's like, you've got to really, really care about it to go watch them. So it's, if anything, they're bigger fans than some of the big teams.
They're making more sacrifices, and
Yeah.
no, very good. And the bit about drinking, like, I've almost like given up on trying to convince myself that I enjoy it. Like, I'm like, I need to go out and meet people, but there's so many other like places where you can meet people, and I don't enjoy it. So maybe I'm not going to meet my people on a night out because they're different to me. Like,
Yeah. It's something that I've experienced obviously twice now and running the business, because the thing that you find is when you're running a business, particularly at a young age, most of your friends don't understand why you do certain things, or they might just say like, oh, it's well easier to get a job, or they don't understand why on a weekend you might not be able to be as free as them. And it can be very difficult, because I think particularly when you run a business on your own, you don't have like a business partner, it's a very isolating place to be in. So sometimes like that's why, for example, like I help run the founders coffee clubs, and Callum has his own community as well, wider community with Roundtable, which those type of groups are really, really useful for me, because the group of people who are a similar age, most of those people in that room are either more successful than me, or some of them are at a similar level, and then
me just trying to
we get other people who
Yeah.
come along and they're like, oh, I want to get into business, but I don't really know where to start, and things like that. And it's a good varying mix. And the thing is that I really enjoy about, if you find the right room, is that you set your ego aside. So a lot of the people who are really, really successful, unless you speak to them on a deeper level, you probably don't know that they're really successful. And if you come along and you're like, oh, I'm trying to do this, they'll probably give you really good advice. Like, I went on a night out recently. I say a night out. We went to pitch the golf simulator, and then we went to like a nice bar in Manchester. And it was with Callum and a few of his people from Roundtable. And it was really, really interesting. So I stayed there until I think it was about 1 a.m, 2 a.m, which, as someone who doesn't drink, that's rare as anything. But the topic of conversation was completely different to like if I go out with a group of my mates and we talk about like football, girls, beer, all that sort of stuff. It was like we're talking about business, we're talking about challenges, we're talking about like aspirations, like where you want to go with things. And to me, that's really, really like exciting. I love conversation that's like mentally stimulating, is what I've learned. And that's something that I look for in everything now. I look for it in friendships, I look for it in relationships, I look for it in everything. Like, what can I talk to someone on a level that like intrigues me? Because something that you'll find is when you start doing a business and you start getting further into it, you grow as a person and you become a bit less relatable to people who you previously might have hung around with. And it might just be because you hung around with them because you went on nights out, or it might be because you hung around with them because you, I don't know, played football with them or whatever. But it is difficult trying to go from, I've got this group of friends, some of them aren't going to last the full journey of my business, because you grow as a person, you don't have the same interests, you don't like the same things as them, and you don't have the same priorities, and that's life, isn't it? You just drift away from some people, I guess.
Yeah. I listen to all these podcasts now, and it's like proper deep in everything, and like, I don't know, like There's a few like Modern Wisdom, and do you listen to the Elliot Buick one?
I see clips of it. I
Yeah.
don't listen to the whole thing.
What else? Yeah, I listen to loads of podcasts and books. I usually listen to books on Audible, and like proper deep so much. And like, if you went on a night out and bumped into a random person and started talking about stuff like that, they'd be like, "What the hell is this guy on about?" So it's just finding them people. Like, you can, like at uni, it was like not many people that want to do their own thing and start their own business, but then you almost feel different, but then you get in a space of entrepreneurs, and it's like suddenly you surrounded by.
I think that's the thing. Like you need to merge your circle with where you want to be, right? So there's no point. They always say that there's some of the people that you hang around with most, right? And obviously at first, I was first coming through, I was thinking, well, some of these guys have been my mates for years. Like, that's just how it works. The reality is, right, is if you hang around with a group of people who are saying, right, we're going to go out every weekend, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, like, you will eventually start to, unless you're very, very strong-willed, will succumb to that pressure, and you'll start to go out every weekend, you'll start to do things. And that's not aligned to where you want to go in life, but that's aligned to where they want to go in life. So you will end up in the same situation as them.
And you get forced into drinking more than you want to. Oh, are you getting another drink? Are you getting another drink?
Yeah, and it's like, your actions obviously lead to where you want to go. And like, if you hang around with a bunch of people who are talking about things that are going to make you better, you hang around with a group of people who are, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying you have to be switched on all the time and you have to talk business all the time. Like, obviously have a hobby, have an interest. Like, I think that's really important to have something that you can go away and switch off with. But like, even if it's not your career you're passionate about, I just like when someone's passionate about something. Like, because you meet people all the time and like, oh, what do you like to do? It's like, oh, I like to go out for food. I like to like watch TikTok. I like to go for drinks with friends.
What do you do with that extra few hours when you get back, when you finish work? Like,
well, it's not just that, but it's like, who doesn't like to do those things? Like, everyone wants to go out with their friends. Everyone likes having food. Everyone likes like going out and
that's just dopamine. It's like everyone wants these happy hormones. Like, what do you actually do for that greater good?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm single and trying to find a new girlfriend pretty much, and it's like, it's not like the most attractive thing is when like a girl is really like passionate about a hobby or doing something, like someone that's really likes baking or something like that. It's like, I mean, that's a traditional stereotypical one, but yeah, or someone that plays an instrument or sings or
it's I think the thing is right, if you've got a passion about something, what I really enjoy when I talk to absolutely anyone, don't matter in what context, is if you get people onto a certain subject, the face changes and then they get really passionate about it and they get really into it and they could talk about that subject all day. I absolutely love that. It's like, what I tend to do, even in like business contexts, like most people I meet, I'll go for a coffee with or whatever and I'll just have a little one-to-one. Half of the one-to-one, I'll be honest, is about something away from the work side of things. Because I want to find that thing that I bond with them over. Obviously, for a lot of blokes, it's some level of sport, right? And I have an interest in a wide range of sports, so I can usually find a talking point that I can get in with them on. Even if it's not though, if you can find just one like point where they're passionate about it, you're passionate about it, like, I feel like it makes you bond a lot stronger and it translates into your work as well.
Yeah, definitely, because people always say business to business, but it's people to people, no matter what the. Yeah, so if you're a likable person and they want to work with you, then that's really the selling point. Yeah,
I think something which I've really learned over time is that a lot of people play with status in their heads. Like, obviously, with what we do, we'll go and meet an actual business owner. And like, you got to remember that's someone's boss. So someone's scared of talking to them usually.
Yeah.
And like, I've been with people like massive businesses or people with small businesses. And the key thing is at the end of the day, they're all people. And most of the people I find who are, bigger businesses, bigger names, whatever you want to call them, if I treat them absolutely normally, they appreciate that a lot more, because I go to events and people try to suck up to them because they want work off them or whatever. And I just turn up to them and I'll just like talk to them normally. Like I remember when I was at Huddersfield, they have an enterprise team which sort of helps you build a business through the university. So that's where I initially started off. And one of the advisors there, she went to me, she was like, because she'd been fairly successful in her own right. She'd been on Dragon's Den, she'd got investment, all that sort of stuff. She went to me, she said, one thing I like about you is when you talk, she said, you don't put anything on. There's like no airs or graces. You just say it how it is and you're straight to the point. And like, I've always thought that, because I mean, I'm from Rochdale, so, you know, it's not got the best reputation. It's a bit infamous. So I've always thought initially when I got into things like, oh, you've got to, you know, put on a certain act, you've got to act a certain way. And now I find if I go in, it's like, oh, he's that random northern lad, like it's a bit more memorable, a bit more personality to it, and you just treat people normally.
And if you act like you're on the same level as them, it doesn't bring them down, but it subconsciously in their mind brings you up to their level. It's not like you're trying to get something out of them that's going to help you. It's like you can help each other because you're on the same level.
Yeah, of course. I think, as I say, they like it a bit more though. Like, if I come to you and I'm like sucking up to you, like, you know I'm sucking up to you. Like, yeah. I've been in that situation before when I worked at the Architects. When you go to a construction networking event, everyone wants to find the architect, right? Because they're the one who often builds the project team and gives everyone else the work. So I used to go to events and everyone sucks up to you. I hated it. Because, like, as much as, like, it's nice to feel like, you know, everyone wants to talk to you, it's also just a bit annoying, because I want people to, like, talk to me normally, not talk to me with the thing of, oh, that guy can give us a load of work. Like, and that's what people who own bigger businesses want as well. Like, they're tired of people going, like, because, you know, when you get into a bigger business, the amount of spam emails or the amount of sales pitches you get for an email or on the phone every single day, there's hundreds of them. Like, they just want someone who's going to, like, sit back, have a normal conversation and build a relationship. Because, like, it's like you see on LinkedIn, all these cold messages, people send an absolutely, like, 2-page long message.
Yeah. And
you think, I don't know you. You're pitching work to me.
And you think I'm going to read that essay, yeah.
I don't read the essay.
Yeah.
Like,
I've found with outreach, what I do is I don't want them to even realise it's a pitch. I'm just asking questions about them at the start, and identifying if they actually have the problem that I'm solving, and then I can, like, not sell, but pitch, not even pitch. Just tell them about how my solution. Just ask them questions like, oh, what have I been saying? I've been pitching 2 products, the property walkthroughs and the info products. And if it's someone with knowledge, I'm like, oh, have you ever thought about, is like developing an info product or something you've ever thought about? I think it'd be really good for you. Or just like even just like one sentence, because then you're getting them involved. Like, they're not the commitment to read a full paragraph at the start is.
Yeah, there's a theory by a guy called Steve Blank, which is customer development, and basically it's all built around. It's obviously a lot longer than this, but it's built around the idea of forming a relationship first. So, like, you want it to feel conversational. No one likes being sold to, and no one really likes selling. So people instantly put the guard up. Now, something which I found really, really effective, right, is when I go to a networking event, I will get the attendee list, and I'm giving away my game here, so everyone who watches this is going to know if they get a message from me, it's not just to them.
But copy and paste to everyone.
It's basically...
Don't make a group chat by accident.
No, well, yeah. I go through everyone individually and I say, like, oh, hey, good to chat to you at such and such event, hope to see you again soon. Or I go, well, if they've mentioned something in that chat that's relevant, I might just drop them. I've got like a little service overview that's, 3-4 page long PDF, says what I do. Just say, so you get a better understanding to see if I can help with X problem you mentioned. Here you go. Or if I didn't speak to him, I say, hey, I was also at this event. Sorry we didn't get the chance to chat. And what I'm finding with the sorry I didn't get the chance to chat ones, they're way more effective, right? So people, I think it's the word sorry, right? So they obviously think that you wanted to really chat to them. So a lot of people off the back of that are like, oh, let's arrange a coffee in the meantime for the next event. Or even if they're only like, oh, we'll meet at the next event, I'll make an effort to talk to you. I sometimes might say, if I'm particularly interested in what they do, I might be like, oh, well, if you want to make sure we don't miss each other, let's grab that coffee in between. And those have actually been some really good opportunities for me recently, because I'm not pitching, I'm trying to build up that relationship, and it just so happens that I already know that they're in the sphere of people who I could work with, but I've not gone in with a hard sell. I've not gone in saying, this is what I want to achieve from it, or I really want to get some work from you. I'm just saying, let's have a coffee, let's talk about your business. And a lot of the time in these one-to-ones, I try and just give away free advice. I'll be honest, because the thing is I give away free advice, and like I said before, I back myself enough that I've trained years to do this. If they go away and try act on that free advice, the likelihood is they're not going to do it very well, or they're going to come to a stumbling block in it. So if I tell them exactly what to do, it doesn't mean they can do it. So they're going to go, oh, that's a really good idea, I want to act on it. They start acting on it, they've got committed to actually trying to achieve that thing. So then once they get further down that line, they then go, oh, we need someone to actually do this properly. That's where I come in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the same idea with the podcast. I keep bringing it back, but if someone's spoken to you for an hour and a half, they feel a personal connection with you. You're not just some other business person that does a thing, personal connection that they want to help you out as well as you helping them out. I mean, it works both ways as well, with guests and me, or if I can ever help them. So, yeah. And also another thing about the status thing, I find, say someone had a Ferrari and they went around telling everyone they had a Ferrari, or the whole thing where they put the keys on the table or whatever. Or whereas if you met them a few times as a friend, you met up with them a few times, and one day they say, oh, I'll come and we'll go this place to come and pick you up, and they're just in a Ferrari.
Yeah.
They've never mentioned it. That is so much more impressive.
It is. I mean, it's one of those things, I think, because I've been around the construction and property world for quite a few years now, property development become a bit of a trend, and it's partly because of social media and things like that, but it's become a thing where people want to achieve that status. So they want the thing of, oh, I'm a property developer, they want the flashy lifestyle, they want the Range Rover, they want the big houses, etc., etc. And most of the property developers who I've ever dealt with, the ones who usually turn up in the designer clothes, have the fancy cars, talk numbers all the time, are usually the ones who can't back it up. Because the thing is, most of the most interesting people, or some of the most affluential people you'll find, are usually the quietest in the room. So, because they don't want people to know what they do, because they're gonna want to pitch work to them, they're gonna suck up to them, like I said before. For example, I went to a property developers event, probably maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago now, and it's a mixture of people, right? So there is people who do property development, and there's people who supply into that world as well. And I'd went to the event, and it was in this big fancy hotel in Manchester, and I went away from it and I thought, that weren't a good event, that. I've not met anyone really useful. And as I was getting in the lift, I knew that the only thing on that floor was this event.
Yeah.
I got in the lift with this guy, and I was just like, oh, what do you do? And bear in mind, he was wearing just jeans, t-shirt, sort of baggy, waterproof, you wouldn't have suspected anything of him, right? And he went to me, he went, I'll be honest with you, because I'm about to leave, he went, been telling everyone in there I'm a builder. I'm actually in property development, he said, I sold my IT business years ago, and now I just do this as sort of a side thing. It's my wife's thing really, but I just invest the money into it. And I thought, that's really interesting, because I know that man is, as I've got to know him more, I know that he's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
And he was sat in a room and he's like, I don't want anyone to know I'm a multimillionaire.
He was listening.
Yeah.
He was a listener, not a speaker.
Yeah. It's only because I happened to, as we left the hotel, I went, oh, where are you walking to? And he went, oh, I'm walking to, I think it was to Salford Central, and I happen to live next to the train station. So I was like, oh, I'll walk with you.
Yeah.
So I walked that way.
Make sure you get home safe.
Well, I didn't know the level at this point of what he was at, but it's just, I found it so interesting. Like, it's always the people you don't suspect, because, as I say, every single networking event I've ever been to, when I meet the people who are like ridiculously wealthy or have done ridiculously well for themselves, they're never the loudest one in the room.
Yeah. I always think people that wear big like Louis Vuitton and stuff like that, then they're not the rich ones. Like wearing a plain t-shirt from Zara for £17 and some chinos, which is my like default outfit, maybe partly by design, but you look like so much richer than this person that goes around with a massive gold chain and stuff. Even though you're out, you can buy like that kind of outfit for £50 or whatever. But
yeah, I think the thing is right, when you reach a certain level, you no longer feel the need to impress people. And people who don't have anything feel the need to impress people to disguise the fact that they're not happy with where they're at. It's like I said before with the nights out. You can go on any night out, you can go into a bar, you'll see the lads head to toe in designer gear, right? They'll have a t-shirt on that's worth about 500 quid, they'll have a pair of jeans that's 200 quid, they'll have £1,000 shoes on, right? You can guarantee they're not earning enough money to pay for that without either getting in debt or it being fake, right? And you just think you're so obsessed about how other people perceive you that you're trying to compensate for something. And it's like I said before, a lot of those people use it as an escapism thing. So, as I say, on Monday, they might go back to,
Brilliant or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not going to say a job because I don't want to belittle it,
specific.
but, they might go back to a minimum wage job and they might try to be keeping this image that they're something that they're not.
Yeah.
Whereas, other people, obviously you can have nice things. I'm not saying don't have nice things. Like if you are going to an event and you think, oh, I've got a nice watch for events, or you might be like, I've got this nice suit, or I've got something that you bring out on special occasions, of course. But like day to day, am I going to rock around in bumming like an outfit that's worth a few grand? No, I'm not.
It's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
And I think it just shows the opposite usually. It doesn't make people look rich, it makes them look the opposite. So what pulled you in the direction of construction and that space?
So there was a few things. So when I was in the architects, one of the great things that you see with architects is that, as I said before, they often build the project teams. And because I also had that route of doing business development as well, it meant I interacted with a lot wider range of companies within that world. And we were getting stuff in, and like some of the huge like main contractors, like we work with some absolutely massive companies, some of the big names. I was looking at their marketing and I was just thinking, it's shocking.
Yeah, no, I've seen exactly the same.
It's you sit there and you think, well, if these companies aren't doing it to this level, like, so there's two tangents to this, right? Is from a personal perspective, my before and afters look great because they usually start with something poor. But because the industry as a whole is slow to adapt and slow to incorporate marketing or spend money on marketing, it means that the ones who do receive greater results because there's less competition, which is a really good position to be in because it makes my life easier, they get better results. It's a win-win really. And the other thing was, like, as I mentioned before, you look at the value of the stuff that's in construction. Like, obviously, I live in the centre of Manchester. Outside of London, there's nowhere being developed at a rate as big as Manchester. And you just think, there's something in this, because if they're managing to put up all this construction work, like, there must be the money there to invest in this sort of stuff. I just think it's a really interesting industry because when you look at it from a very sort of, I was going to say dummies guide perspective, but if you look at it in simple terms, right? I think the key thing about construction, right, is that when you're marketing something, they have a massive advantage in terms of they have a visual end product. So they build a building, it's like a stunning building. But then the other thing about it is that every building that you do or every site that you build on has like a history to it, it has a story to it. I mean, you only have to look at what I'd call grassroots construction, so like your tradies who come in your house and do something. The people who come in there's some really big personalities within construction as well. And if you can channel that correctly, you've got a multitude of things there. So you've got a stunning end product of a building, you've got history behind said building, but then you've got people working on it who, a lot of the time, if you can get them to show off the personality, become more likeable, they become more endearing and things like that. Obviously, you have to channel that correctly with some tradies, but it's
there are definitely some personalities.
Like, it fits nicely with the whole personal brand side of things, right? Because as much as, the guys who are on the tools aren't necessarily going to be the guys who are, posting on LinkedIn and things like that, you still want to show people who work at the company. It's like, if you can show those guys, when they turn up to a job or they turn up on site, it makes it a lot better because you almost feel like you know that person in a way. I think I've mentioned before, and I think it's what you're going to go on to, like, something that I think is really, really effective in the video side of things, which I'm seeing a little bit of a trend with in construction, is people walking through the sites on video. And like, so the B2C world, I think, is always miles ahead of the B2B world in terms of marketing. And it tends to follow, and certain trends tend to drip into the B2B world. And one thing which I think is this idea around, like, they use presenters a lot in the B2C world. And I'm not necessarily saying they have to, but I think there will be certain people within construction businesses eventually who could be the person who go to site and they walk around the site and they show you around it. Because I know a couple of companies who do that. There's a property company in Liverpool, and there's a couple of guys I know, KG Construction, who are in Rochdale. They do these really cool videos where they finish a job, or even progress updates on a job if it's a long time job. And like, they walk around and they're explaining the decisions, they're walking you through it, and it's just, I think that's a really
reassuring
good way.
You that it's quality, because there's a lot of crap construction out there, and reassuring people that they're not them people, they're the people that actually care about what they're doing.
Of course there is. I mean, look, there's a reason the term cowboy builder comes to fruition from that industry. And I get it. So, as we mentioned before, the value of what you're doing in construction is high. So whether that's for a homeowner who has to spend a lot of money to like get an extension on the house, or whether it's for £1 million project, I always say to my clients, right, the lead time in construction is a lot longer than anything else. Once you get to a grassroots level, it goes back to word of mouth. So you might have had someone in here to do the bathroom, and then, your friend goes, oh, I'm looking at doing bathroom. And you'll go, oh, Joey did a great job for us. Like, get him in, he's a good lad. And that's how it works at the grassroots level. And it sort of works that way once you get to the higher levels as well. You have to have that credibility to back it up, but it's just credibility to a larger extent. So it's not just having that thing of, oh, we use this guy, he's good. It's then having the portfolio to back it up. It's having the experience. It might be having the accreditation to say, oh, I've been on these sites before, I've got experience working in them. Because a lot of the thing in construction is that, say, let's say you do healthcare.
Yeah.
There's so many intricacies to it that are completely different to someone who might be doing house building. So you need someone who's been and done that and understands working in those environments. And that reduces a lot of the risk for the person who's appointing them. Because I know when we used to, when I was at the Architects and we used to work on railways, the delays on those projects, if you got delayed, you're talking thousands of pounds a day once you run over. So you run over a day, it could cost like $3,000. And for every day you run over, you're getting charged $3,000 per day. No one wants to have that happen to them.
Yeah.
You lose all your profit margin on a job. So, and it's a massive trickle-down effect. So if you think about it, in the larger jobs, so you'll have the original client, you'll have the main contractor, you then will have the architect or the engineer, and then they'll appoint their own project team. So you might have, you know, an M&E consultant, you might have a surveyor, you might have QS, you might have all these different disciplines that then go underneath. So it's on the person at the very top to deliver that. So if the main contractor isn't delivering that to the client isn't happy, they won't pay them. And it happens so often within construction that it's a trickle-down effect. So you see all these big construction companies that go bust. There's been quite a few in the last couple of years. And it's the trickle-down effects. Like, you see a big construction company go bust. Often, a lot of the smaller companies then really struggle because they're waiting on payments from those guys. And it's just a vicious chain, really. Is that one of the cameras or the YouTubers use them for vlogging, don't they? Because it flips.
It flips round, yeah. I mean, these cameras look so much better than that camera, I think.
Because of it,
Yeah, but I mean, they do for YouTube and stuff, but I think on a big screen they look a bit crap.
Yeah. Do you know? This is completely off topic here, but Matt Stokes. So he didn't come to the last event,
right?
But if you come to the next one, so I think I mentioned this to you at the time actually. He used to be a YouTuber.
Oh, I think I followed him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, I think he's got one of them.
Yeah.
Because he'll walk into the coffee clubs.
Yeah.
And he'll be like this. He'll be walking around vlogging, and you're like,
oh bloody hell!
I forgot to
Who brought this guy? Yeah.
Yeah, he's class though, Matt.
Yeah. No. I'll come to the next one hopefully. No, it was a good event. I always find it networking events are just a gamble whether it's going to be worth it or not.
Yeah,
and sometimes you think it's not worth it, and it turns out to be worth it later down the line.
Yeah, it's networking's one of them things. People say it's a rubbish event. You only need to find one good person at a rubbish event who also thinks it's a rubbish event, and you're laughing, aren't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that one was a good one. Well, like good people for me. Like some of them, well, I suppose it's because it's founders, isn't it? That's the main thing. But you go to some, it's like all people like that work in companies and stuff.
Yeah, it's that's the issue with a lot of the young professional ones, right? Is that it's usually a large corporation who go, oh, can we get a guy to come down and get him used to getting out and talking to people? And you think, well, if you're a junior and you've got like another 5-10 people above you, like, I'm not achieving anything as a business owner. All right, you might be sound and you might like could become a mate or whatever, but like as much as that,
they might just get headhunted to another company or something.
Yeah, but that's a trickle-on effect, and it happens at other places where you do obviously build relationships with the people you meet, but like, end of the day, I'm not going to a networking for the pure reason that I want to make friends. I'm going to networking because it makes me money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, all the incentive. I mean, yeah, it's good to talk to people as well, but
yeah, of course,
that's what we all care about at the end of the day. Really, everyone can say, "Oh, I'm not bothered about money," but we need freedom.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, innit? Because you can get, as a business owner, you can go to any event and you can get drawn into events and you can spend all your time networking.
Yeah.
But it's about how you allocate your time and understanding which ones to cut off sooner than others. Because there's events I enjoy but I don't go to anymore. And the reason is because, as a business sense, they're not useful for me. All the people, great people, get on with them, still speak to them. Don't mean I want to go there and spend my business time though.
I also find with like regular networking events, sometimes it's good to go to the same one maybe 2 or 3 times and then move on to a different one, because you've met all the same people and there's no point meeting the same people multiple times.
Yes and no. So like, the thing is right, so I used to run like B&I chapters back in the day, which gets an infamous sort of reputation for being as strict as you can get, which Yeah, it is and it isn't, right? So one thing is that you build the relationship, and what you got to remember is the people who jump from group to group all the time and only turn up once rarely get anything because they haven't built a relationship. If I meet you once and you go, oh, I want to do this video project with me, the likelihood is I probably already know videographers, right? So just because I meet someone once doesn't mean they didn't jump to the hierarchy, right? But then if you spend the time and you build up a relationship with someone,
Yeah.
and you go to the same event, all right, it might be the same people, but that's when they start trying to think broader. It's like, I try and educate people on what I do. Most people don't get it for a while because it's not what they do, but then eventually they do get it, and once they get it, they become advocates, and that's the most powerful thing you can have.
True, yeah. Yeah, so building them relationships. I suppose if you meet someone once, you build a surface level relationship, but they don't really care about you at the end of the day. Like, they don't want... Like, once you meet someone a few times, then they actually genuinely, like, want you to... Like, they want to help you, so yeah.
Yeah, I think basically all I try to achieve with one-to-ones, right, is educating people on what I do. And if they become an advocate of what I do because I come across likeable, I come across someone who, they want to help out, obviously you do get the benefit of when you're a younger business owner, a lot of people do want to help you get that leg up. If I can get to that position, I don't have to be everywhere all of a sudden because they're in rooms and they're listening for opportunities. So then it opens up a tangent for more and more opportunities.
They're like a walking ad for you.
Yeah. So because everyone always says, right, some of the best people who you can have are people you've done a good job for. And because they're going to go to people, and like I said before, someone goes, oh, I need a graphic designer. Ben's a good graphic designer. I used him. He did this. Look at this. This is really good, isn't it? And then you get it that way. That's the best effect that you can have. And I think that's something that a lot of people maybe at first particularly underestimate, that power of building relationships, because I had an instance the other week. I say the other week, it was before Christmas. This woman, I'd met her when I said I did all those networking calls all day, every day in COVID. She's based over in Huddersfield, actually, and I'd never met her in person. I'd not spoke to her one-on-one. We'd been in a wider group situation. In fact, I think I spoke to her one-on-one once, but it was on Zoom. And as far as I was concerned, I hadn't spoke to her in about, 5 years? A LinkedIn post popped up and she commented and was like, oh, Ben does this, he's really good at that. And I sent her a message separately. I was just like, oh, thanks for bearing me in mind. I know it's been a while. I was a bit surprised to see that you commented. And she's like, oh, I just remember the way you conducted yourself and held yourself for such a young person. Because obviously when she was talking to me, I was 21, 22. She's like, the way you conducted yourself was really, really memorable, and I knew that the way you spoke meant that you were really on it with what you've done, and I obviously see you posting in your journey and how you're developing. So like I said before, you never know who knows who, you never know who's watching, and you never know that.
You've just got to treat everyone with kindness and respect, because you never know, honestly.
That's the thing, I've gone into meetings before and I think, I'm doing it because we go to the same networking event. I don't really think they're useful to me. And then it'll turn out the brother runs a construction firm, and you go, hang on a minute, this is really useful. It's weird. I don't think you can ever underestimate people. I very much believe that no matter who it is, you can learn something from them, whether that's good or bad. And you can always, people always know someone, whether it's a stepping stone to the person you want, however, it's the actual useful person, they know someone. So you just can't underestimate where a conversation can take you.
Yeah. Do you play paddle?
I don't. So
you've not been indoctrinated into that.
So one of my clients, literally, I told him that there's a property and construction league started in Manchester, right? And obviously, as I said before, because I used to play badminton nationally for a while, he thinks, hand-eye coordination, it'll pass on.
Yeah.
And he went, right, what we're going to do is I pay you to come play for me in this paddle tournament and you'll win it, and then we'll be branded.
I can tell you, I used to play badminton a lot as well, and it does not translate. There's
No,
so
it
many
don't.
bad habits. I keep jumping up to hit the ball, and I'm like, that would have been out if I just left it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just that habit.
It's the thing with something heavier as well. So like,
Yeah.
I've had the same thing with people say, oh, you can play like tennis and stuff. You can't. If with badminton, if you go to flick your wrist,
Yeah.
it flies. If you go to flick your wrist with tennis, you nearly break your wrist in half.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. The only thing I've found it translates to racket sport wise is squash.
Yeah.
But paddle, like I said before with golf, paddle is becoming the new golf.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I think I'm open to doing it. It's just it's ridiculously expensive for what it is.
It is. Yeah, because you can play tennis for free.
Yeah.
There's a park in pretty much every within 5 miles of pretty much everyone where you can play tennis for free.
Of course,
and then tennis paddles like I don't know, probably even more in Manchester, but the one near me it's like £10, £12 a time depending on what time it is. So it's like
So in Manchester on a weekend,
yeah.
I know there's a place that you can book for an hour. One of the main ones is £90 an hour.
For a court?
Yes.
Jesus, that's double of like around here.
Yeah, so that's the thing, like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
for what it is, it's just not worth it, is it?
well, you need 4 of you, and even then, like, I know when I was playing for, like, badminton courts, you can get one of them for, like, 12, 15 quid
Yeah.
for an hour. And you're like, brilliant, that's good, I can crack on with that. It's affordable, you get 4 a year, you're only paying a couple of quid each. You can do that every week. If you're saying, oh, I want to play paddle a couple of times a week, and you're paying 90 quid, and there's, 4 of you, you're spending
And some people are playing paddle like 3 times a week. I'm like absolute fortune. I feel like paddle is a bubble, and eventually the courts will be the same price as like playing badminton or tennis.
Yeah, so I used to work with, at the Architects, a Spanish lad, David, or Spanish Dave as I call him. And he told me that, interestingly, Spain went through the same resurgence about 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
And basically, I can't remember it is, whether they have a king or a prince or something like that. And he was playing paddle, right? So then it trickled down, and everyone was like, right, I want to play paddle. So they built all these paddle courts.
Yeah.
And he said, if you go to Spain now, for a while it was like the hype that he's got here.
Yeah.
He said now there's loads of these paddle courts that have just become like every other racket sport, where they're having to
just
sell
like
them
the
for
local
a few
tennis
quid.
club or something like that.
They're trying to sell them for a few quid an hour because the hype's died down. People still obviously play, but they don't play to the level of the first initial hype of it. So he thinks the same thing will happen here, which it probably will. Because the big spaces that I know when we just left the Architects, we were doing this massive. It was a rugby ground, but it had all like community facilities on it. One of the things they said was paddle courts. So we did these paddle courts, and one of the reasons we did them was because they're very low cost to set up. However, they're just warehouses.
Yeah.
So like you can take out the nets or whatever, and you can use it as a multi-sport facility. You can repurpose it for something else. So as soon as the hype dies down, you can repurpose those buildings quite
turn it
easily.
into a gym or something.
Yeah. So I don't think they're a bad thing business-wise.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. Yeah, 'cause my mate's been sending me so much stuff. Like, we need to make like a paddle club, and I'm like, I think we're a bit too late now. Because by the time it opened, it's it's going to be 2 or 3 years down the line. It's going to be too late. But yeah, the point you say, you can. It's just a nice warehouse that you can change into anything else. It's got changing facilities. You can just take the courts out and turn it into the next hype thing, the next activity, or just a gym,
I mean, you look around, like, centre of Manchester, right? 5-a-side football pitches, you struggle to get one if it's, like, straight after work, because everyone wants one straight after work. They go play football and go to the pub or go home or whatever. And you look at those spaces, you could put 5-a-side football pitches on, put a bit of Astro on, you sound.
Well, yeah, the one near me, that used to be a 5-a-side football place, and now it's a paddle place.
So. Yeah, exactly. It's easy to repurpose a space once you've got it.
Yeah, the next trend, or I wonder what the next thing will be. It's like with business models as well. All these things, like there was drop shipping like 10 years ago, then it was social media marketing agency, which is similar to what I do, but I try to put a spin on it. And then it's like course selling. Well, I've kind of trying to combine the course selling and and the social media marketing agency. But is core selling the next thing to get? Well, it's probably already got saturated. Oh, I don't want to say that on here because it's my business model. No, it does work, but it is getting saturated.
Of course it is. So, like, look, marketing's a saturated space.
Yeah.
I always tell people there's a reason why whenever you speak to, or I speak to a new client, they've always had a previously bad experience with a marketing agency. And it's because the space is so saturated that there's arguably more bad ones than good ones, right? And the issue with that is that it gets the whole industry a bad reputation. But one thing that you need to consider is like, how do you make yourself different? So obviously for me, that's why I've gone down this bids and tenders route, because for me, right, any business has to solve a problem, right? If you're a marketing agency, whilst marketing will always be something that people can do, because there's so many of them, why would construction companies trust me? Like, why do I have an understanding of that industry? Why have I picked construction? And like, you need to have that differential, because otherwise you're just another marketing agency. I've tried when I was, 21, 22, going down the route of, I'll do anything for everyone. And whilst it is a business model, I think that you'd be able to grow a lot further by saying, look, we're really good at this one problem and solving this one problem, and we can do it for you guys. You know who these guys are, who you're trying to solve the problem of. If you can hone in on that, like, you develop a reputation for what you're good at. You don't develop a reputation as being a generalist, which is what a lot of marketing
and it also makes
become.
outreach so much easier because you can have that framework that you just repeat and you know who you're wanting to reach.
Yeah. It's marketing's a tricky one because I always say to people, like, I can work with, I don't know, I've had success with the land surveyor I work with, right? If I was to leave him and I was to work with another land surveyor, there's no guarantees that the same roadmap that we've done will work in exactly the same thing, in the same way, or to the same level of success, because marketing, if you put it at a really, really simple base, it doesn't matter what discipline you're doing in marketing. Obviously, some are easier than others to understand the output, but it's just a series of experiments, right? And it's understanding when you fail. So I might have used this analogy quite a few times before, but the way I look at it, right, is because people always confuse marketing and sales.
Yeah.
So if you own a shop, you've got a display in the window, right? You put a load of balloons in the window. People come into that shop and they say to the people who are inside the shop, whether it's the cashier, the people on the shop floor, whatever, they go, really liked your balloon display in the window. Thought I'd come in and have a look. That's the marketing, right? So the marketing's done its job, it's got you through the door, it's generated that lead. If you then have that person leave the store and they've not bought anything, that's the fault of the salespeople with inside. So I'm not necessarily saying in the shop, because you don't want a salesperson coming harassing you. But
are you sure you don't want this chocolate bar?
yeah. You get my point though. If the marketing has done its job once you set foot into that door, if you can't.
So the marketing is the lead generation, and the sales is the conversion.
Yeah, but they need to work in tandem.
Yeah.
So if there's people on that shop floor, and they hear that everyone's coming in because of the balloon display, you need to then tell the marketing, right? So then you go to the marketing, people are loving this balloon display. So you put more money into it, you keep doing balloon displays. If people stop coming through the door, you need the salespeople to start going, people stop coming in, I don't think that balloon display is working anymore.
Yeah.
And then you change it. And that's why it's so important that both sales and marketing communicate, because marketing's done on a bunch of presumptions about your target audience. Pardon me. What you think they might like, okay? So the only way that you can affirm those presumptions is through your sales team. So your sales team speak directly to the customer, they understand the customer, they understand trends, they understand what actually prompts the customer to buy, and they understand how I was going to say they manipulate them, and they do to an extent.
Yeah, definitely.
They emotionally manipulate people into buying. It's all buying decisions are made on emotions, right? So they understand why people are actually purchasing, and you need to use that information because it's like gold dust for marketing people to then fuel what trigger points and what things you're building your marketing around.
I mean, well, I've seen trying to target estate agents and stuff. Like, I've done a lot of outreach. I'm still assessing like the feasibility of this market, and I'm still in the figuring it out stage because I've done a lot of outreach and not had much back. So maybe I need to change my path to market or something like that, or actually who my ICP is. Maybe I need to change from estate agents to property developers and stuff like that. But yeah, they all do have crap social media, and do you think there is a reason for that?
I think there is. So you got to think about it in two different ways. So just like I can't build a brick wall, I don't understand the values. Well, before I entered the industry, I didn't understand the values that go into the brick wall and the knock-on effects that can have. They don't understand what goes into marketing. So a lot of people see it as something visual. They see it as something that's, you're just creating a pretty picture, or you're just creating a little video or whatever like that. And I think a lot of people never realise until they get the results. It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. So it can be very difficult to try convince people that they should do something when an industry is run a certain way, because both property and construction, wider built environment, they are word of mouth industries. They have been from the ground up to the top level, and that's the way they've always worked. Could they work more efficiently? Of course they could. If they did good marketing, they could. But it's one of those things. A lot of people think if it's not broke, don't fix it. And it's only when you sometimes see different ways of doing things and experience different ways of doing things that you see the value in them. That's why I can't remember who it is, but there's a company that I seen a while ago. They got a lot of work. It weren't in the construction or property industry, but they were building websites. And what they'd do is they'd build the website and they'd send them to like the dream clients, and then they'd send them this like sandbox like preview link for it, and they'd just say, look, I noticed your website could improve. I've built this website. If you want to buy it, here's how much it'd cost.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you can't do that with everyone because it's big risk and reward. But that's a brilliant way of showcasing this is what you could have and this is how it could work, because a lot of people don't realise what they could have.
It's like, is it like loss aversion or something? It's worse to lose something than to gain the same amount.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're missing out on because they don't have it.
Yeah, of course. I think so it comes from multiple channels. Like, they always think if it's like photography or video, they always think, oh, people have got a phone, like they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
They don't understand like the angles, the actual thought that goes into making a shot, or the thought that goes into making a video. If you're going for a building, like the flow of it and how that shapes like a customer's experience and the journey that they have in terms of that building. I think stuff like that, you maybe don't, as I say, realise to experience it. So it's very, it can be very, very difficult. I think one of my clients, he had like quite a bad experience with marketing agencies previously, and he'd sort of written it off. So he'd said, oh, marketing doesn't work for us. We have an industry where, he's a land surveyor, so it's not the prettiest thing in the world. So they essentially sell data, right?
Yeah.
They sell measurements. Marketing data is obviously...
It's not visual.
Well, it's not a sexy job, is it? Like, you're not doing something that's nice at the end of the day. Well, nice to look at. It's nice output.
Yeah.
But it's very useful output. But that's the bit you got to focus on. So I always say, with things like that, right? I always say to them, enablement, right? And what I mean by enablement is, and it's the same when you're selling your services, what does that enable them to do? So like, you focus on the afters. There's a guy called Andy Bounds, who's a sales trainer, and he always talks about the afters, right? And the whole premise is basically, when you're done with them, what happens afterwards? Now, for the land surveyor, they've got a load of data that means that when they build, there's less hold-ups. You know, their actual plans are not done on guesswork. You have the exact data, and it means the project goes quicker, saves them money because they're keeping to budget and timeframes, all that sort of stuff. So if you look at it from a marketing perspective, of if you go in and you do a video for someone, what are the afters? You're selling them the afters, right? You're not selling them a video, although you are selling them a video. You're selling them the afters, right?
The outcome, yeah.
Yeah, so you're selling them like, oh, you might be able to get, I don't know, this is just off the top of my head, but let's say you might be able to get 5 to 10% more for your properties. You might be able to find a buyer in 30 days less. Like, those are obviously all just like outcomes that I've made up off the top of my head. But if you can sell the dream outcome, or you can sell the things that appeal to them, you need to think of the triggers, right? So what you need to think of is, people don't go home at night and go, oh, I need a video. They go, oh, we're trying to showcase this and we can't think of how to do it. You need to think of what are the problems that they go home and tell the kids, the parents, like, or the wife, whoever it might be. What do they talk about at the dining room table at night, and how can you tap into those? So, like, for some people, if you're working with, you know, for me, if I work with bid teams, right, the thing that they want is they want to make sure that they produce the job on time, because there's a deadline to submit it. They want to make sure that their life's a bit easier, and they want to make sure that they get through the quantity of bids that they want. Now, the reason for that isn't because they have a burning desire that they're really passionate about bids. They might do because that's their career, but the reason for that is because they have a boss, right? And the boss is putting external pressures on them. So if I can play to their external pressures and mean that they're going to validate the boss,
yeah,
it's more effective because it helps them keep their job.
That's something they genuinely care about.
Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah.
They don't care. Look, they do care about the bid to an extent.
Yeah.
But what do they care about on a greater level than that? They care about keeping a roof over the family's heads.
Yeah.
They care about the fact that they keep the job, and they care about progression within the job, right? And the reason that they can do that is they tick a lot of boxes for the boss. If I can help them tick a lot of boxes for the boss, they're going to want to use me.
Yeah, definitely. How do these bids work? So is it initial like briefs it out, and then each construction company like gives their what they charge for it or something like that?
So what it is there will be a number of documents that you have to submit. So when I say bids, some bids are not right for me because some are done through portals. When you're doing for a portal, it's usually like you fill out a very rigid sort of form and there's just one way of doing it. However, others, you need supporting materials to be able to do it. So whilst you might have to submit, you know, a capability statement, or you might have to produce like certain accreditations or things like that, the other areas of things that you might have to produce are like case studies, or you might need to add a portfolio, or you might have the opportunity to pitch to them. And those are all things where obviously you want them to look good, you want to show off your work a bit better. And sometimes the actual tender pack itself, like sometimes you send it in as one sort of big cohesive document, and you want that to flow nicely, you want it to go in a certain way. So yeah, they have a list of requirements that they need, and I can only help with certain documents within that. But if they have a bit of freedom on it, I can sort of advise on, say, look, you might be applying for this one. Have you thought about maybe doing a personalised portfolio just for that company or for what this job's around? And it helps benefit them that way.
All right. So do you charge clients on retainer? Is that your main model?
It can be both ways. So obviously a lot of people don't want to jump straight into a retainer. So I have relationships with like bid writers, whether that's internally or externally. So it might be companies that purely do bid writing, or it might be an in-house bid team for a construction company. And they sometimes come to me, like I had one last week, and she came to me and she just said, "Oh, I'm doing a bid. I think I've got 8 case studies and I've got an organogram," which an organogram is a very specific language, but basically it's the hierarchy of a business. So if you've got a team who are doing a project, it's a bit like a family tree. So you basically lay out, here's the main point of contact, here's who works under them, and you do all the roles within that, within that job. And it's obviously, you want it to look nice because it's a diagram at the end of the day. So she said, "Oh, I've got that for this one-off bid that I'm working on." Fine, that's great. I can crack on with those. So obviously, for me, they're very good because the small jobs that are regular, right? There's obviously a high demand on them. So that's like the baseline of any business. You need those small jobs that are regular. They might not be the most attractive jobs in the world, but there's quantity of them. But then if someone has a particular demand, so like let's say I was working with, for example, a design and fit out company, they bid for an awful lot of stuff because that's how they get the majority of their work. So I could then work with their team, whether that might be the bid manager, it might be a pre-construction director, it might be the actual director, depending on the size of the business. They might be wanting to get into larger quantities of work, so they do a lot of bidding. So I could have them on a retainer, and that could obviously have a set allocation from me based on how much they bid per month on average. So we might have, how that would work is you'd have one call a month, and I'd sit with that person and I'd say, "Look, what are you going for this month?" They might say, "Right, let's say for the sake of round numbers, we've got 5 projects this month that we're bidding for." I might say, "Okay, so tell me a bit about them, find out a bit about what is required for each one of those." Then I might say, "Okay, for this one, have you thought about adding this as like a supplementary sort of thing to support that bid? Or with this one, you mentioned it requires 8 case studies. How are you going to lay those case studies out?" So like, it's about, I've obviously got a set amount of time allocation with them, but it's about how can you best assign that allocation for a bid. Obviously they might have ones that are different priorities, or one might be more important than others. So you might go all in on one, and you might only do little bits for another, and you might do nothing for another. But it's about understanding that relationship, getting to know the business, and understanding what they prioritise and what's important for them in a bid.
Ah. Yeah, I didn't even know that existed. Well, who are the bids to? Like, who are they sending them to? Is it a property developer, and these are the? Like,
so it varies depending on the discipline, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, they'll be bidding to main contractors. So that'll be your likes of, it might be, a Galloway, it might be, these large sort of companies, Adomis, the people you see sort of building, the massive building sites, they'll have the signage all over, all them sort of people, the tier 1s, the tier 2 contractors. But then for other people, it might be, they might be bidding to a public body, so they might be doing like a NHS, they might be doing, I know someone who does some stuff for the Department of Work and Pensions, like, these big sort of government firms.
Yeah.
So they usually either bid into authorities, it could be local councils, things like that, it could be main contractors, actual construction firms, or in the property world, it can be to investors, right? So I had a chat with one of my friends the other day. He's involved in like linking investors up with actual people who are doing the developments, property developers, if you will. And he does deals that are like, I'm talking tens of millions of pounds, if not hundreds of millions of pounds in some instances. But they need someone to fund those.
Yeah.
And how do you get funding for a project when you don't have it? Usually pitch decks.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of things and how it links
What, so you
into
make pitch decks?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I suppose there's at that amount, when the stakes are that big, I suppose a lot probably goes into them. But
yeah. So like, look, I'm not going to name him for obvious reasons, but he was taking it was a very small percentage. It was like less than 10% of this deal.
Yeah.
And he works on a success basis. If that come off, it was £770,000 for
Yeah.
him. So you understand the scale of the things that they're working on. So for them, finding those investors to be able to fulfill those schemes is massively important, because obviously the project doesn't happen without the money behind it. So for them to then say, oh, we want, let's even say it's like a 20-page thing.
Yeah.
If they go, right, we're going to spend, I don't know, for round numbers' sake, again, let's go £5,000. £5,000 to build a development that might be worth £20 million.
Does he take a commission as well then? If it's he only needs like one to work a year, and then he's like...
Yeah, of course he does. And I think that's the thing with property, is it's a long game, right? So obviously for developments to pay off, they can take years, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that he isn't going to have, or in my world of, even in the bids world, you don't have things drop every single week, right? So you start a project, it can be very hard to market it, because, when I worked in the architects, you couldn't show things until they got planning permission. When you got planning permission, you could show usually like PR news articles, and then the project might last for 3 years, and I can't show anything until it's done.
Yeah.
Because there'll be changes in that design. So yeah, it is very difficult. It's a difficult industry because the time in which it takes to do things is very long.
Yeah, you might see big wins, but then you see big dry patches as well.
Of course you do, yeah. I think that's the thing. A lot of these property developers, when they make money, they make a lot of money, but they might not make money for 6 months, 12 months. And they're relying particularly on the smaller end, because obviously the people who are just getting into it, they don't have the range of properties, they don't have the portfolio. So they might have, payments dropping, every so often. But that's why they're trying to build up that portfolio, so you get more payments dropping in a diverse rate, so you get it throughout the year rather than once, twice a year.
I saw this thing, and it was like a good indicator of the economic state of a city or a place is how many cranes there are.
Yeah.
I mean, Manchester's the place to be for that at the moment.
Yeah, I think, as I say, I look around Manchester, and I think there is nowhere else that I'd want to do a business based in construction.
Yeah.
Because whilst obviously there's got to be a point at which it plateaus, right? Because they've got to develop it to a certain level, and then they struggle for more space or whatever that may be. However, right now it's the place to be.
There's still a lot of space as well. There's still a lot of empty warehouses. When you get the train in, you see there's still... It's almost like a wall of the edge of the city, like of skyscrapers. So these are going to just keep on expanding out.
Yeah, I mean, they're developing further and further out, right? So obviously I've lived there for 3 years now, and technically I'm next to a bridge which is the divide between Salford and Manchester. So I'm technically just in Salford, right?
Yeah.
When I first started living there, the ring road goes around the outside. Yeah. And the ring road was like, right, this is the edge of Manchester. Now they're building tower blocks to the side of the ring road. Obviously, it's getting to the point where they're getting further and further out. So like, obviously, Media City, Salford Quays is massive now. But I think there will eventually become a point where it's developed all the way out to there, and it'll just be like this continuous thing of massive scale.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely the place to be. Like, you want somewhere where things are going on. You want to be in the industry that's doing well. And whilst construction is notorious for poor cash flow, it's definitely a place where there is a lot of money.
Yeah. Big wins, like high risk, high reward.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, the thing is with construction, right, is as I mentioned before, there's so many trickle-down economics of it. So it's very, very difficult in terms of cash flow running a business within construction. So I always refer to this thing, I seen it was a couple of years ago now, and I don't know the exact figure, but it was something like they were bragging that they would produce this report every year they said the average invoice payment time within construction as a whole was something like, I think it was either 120 or 180 days, which obviously most businesses go through like your 30-day terms or whatever. And like, as an industry to be like, oh, this is at one of our lowest points ever, is shocking. Like, it's something where like, they're all saying, oh, well, people don't see construction, like there's not enough young people coming into construction. But yeah, I think they see the risk of it, and they see the fact that it's not really a stable industry, and you see a lot of massive names in the last few years have gone bust. They've gone under on some of the biggest developments in the country. So you think, it's like what I go back to before, it's looking at the Maslow hierarchy of needs. People want stability, and they're entering an industry. They want something where they go, this is a really sustainable industry, and we're not going to get done over by our business that I work for not being paid by someone else.
Yeah. Well, seeing as you've worked in that industry, what's some advice that you give to someone not necessarily working in the construction industry, but maybe what you're doing, which is with working with them rather than in them?
I think the key thing you can do is get out and actually meet them, right? Because it's an industry where there's so much terminology. It's quite a technical industry, and what I'd say is that, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people probably won't respect you in the same way if you don't understand the intricacies of it. A lot of people obviously see marketing as this shiny thing that isn't really needed, but if you can show that you've got knowledge, then you will get a lot more respect, and people take you a lot more seriously. But that only comes from spending time around people who are, doing the work on site, doing all that sort of stuff. You need to be able to understand the way they speak, the way they act, what they're actually talking about. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I'd say, is that just get as many conversations as you can flowing. Like, obviously people will be willing to give you a chance.
Yeah.
But it's you just need to have those conversations. It's a snowball effect, really.
Do you do much outreach anymore, or is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I do a bit. So what I tend to do is, it's mainly for bid writers or pre-construction directors. I've worked out which job roles that I need to speak to. I've worked out the problems that they have, and I basically just say, look, like to him, my opening message was something like, look, I've noticed we're both in the world of winning work in construction, but from slightly different angles. I said, what we do slots in very, very nicely with what you do, and it'd really help strengthen your offering to your clients.
Yeah.
Can we have a chat about it?
You have to position it from their point of view.
Yeah, it makes their service stronger, that's all I tell them, because the thing is for ages, I used to frame it as, oh, let's grab a coffee, let's grab a catch-up, right? And then I wondered why a lot of people cancelled on me, and the reason is, someone said to me, they were like, you need to position it as something that's valuable to them.
Yeah.
And if they don't think it's valuable to them, they'll keep moving you about, they'll keep cancelling.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say, oh, I can make your service better, let's have a conversation, they're going to have a conversation, aren't they? Because
yeah, definitely, because that's something they genuinely want.
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
If they want it to, they will, kind of thing, that whole saying.
Yeah. It's I mean, I have a business advisor.
Yeah.
Well, I say a business advisor. He's become a mate, but I worked with him originally on one of his courses, funnily enough, at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And he is very well known in the industry. He's sold a business for 300 million, marketing agency. And he's always says to me, he's like, you have to give a reason for people to speak to you. Like, as much as you don't think everything's transactional, it is. Right? So that if you're just going to people, oh, I want to speak to you because I want to pick your brains, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, what's in it for them?
Yeah.
Like, you have to give them a reason to talk.
Yeah, definitely. What kind of volumes are you doing with outreach? Like, I've been doing trying to do 2 hours a day.
Oh, I don't do anything near that.
Yeah.
most of my messaging on LinkedIn is off the events I go to. So as I say, I do that either way message on the follow up, and I go to maybe about 2 events a week.
Right.
So that's the majority of it, and then probably once a week I just search people who are relevant. I just send them a few messages.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna run out of people soon, to be honest.
It's tricky, but it's just it's understanding how to, like, obviously I know it's a quantity game to some level, but it's understanding like how you evolve your message to get the response. And if you're sending them out too quickly, you don't get that learning time.
Yeah, you don't get the time to adapt on, and then you kind of lose that opportunity on that person because you've already decided their answer.
Yeah, at one point when I first started, I was trying to do like 10 a day, and then I slowed down because I was like, as I was getting responses, I was thinking, right, I could change this slightly, or the way they've worded it.
Yeah, like I've already changed mine a bit. Like it was 2 questions before, like, are you having this issue or even this issue? But now I've just shortened it to just this issue. Like,
yeah, because as much as a lead, it depends how it goes, the conversation. Obviously, it's hard to predict because there's so many millions of ways it could go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to find if I go with the stint of like, I'm helping them and removing a problem from them, like they're a lot warmer and they come in and I get to the point I want to get to a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Which is, you have to look at what you're trying to achieve. I'm not trying to achieve a sale in the messages.
No.
I'm trying to achieve an opportunity to talk to them.
Oh yeah, a lot of people talk about like video, like sending a video, like, oh hey, and I don't know, have you ever tried it?
I've not. I've received them.
Yeah.
And if it's cold, it can go either way. Some people like it because they go, oh, it's a bit of personality, get to know.
Yeah.
I think it's over familiarity.
Maybe breaking a boundary.
Yeah, it's like voice. If someone sends me a voice note straight away,
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got to go away and listen to that. Like,
yeah, you can't just reply on the train or something. You got to actually.
Yeah, and I think it's about over familiarity. It's about understanding different audiences. It's, if you get into something, I've had it before where people, they qualify me.
Yeah.
They say that I have a need and they can help me out. Then they send like a Loom video or something like that, and they say, look, hey, I just, you said you had this problem. Here's how I'd go about it, or here's how I work with people to do that, or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's helping me out and it's more valuable to me. Whereas if you're just doing it to go like, oh, hey, I'm Ben, I'm a graphic designer, like, just write in a message.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's just something I'm figuring out at the moment. There's so many, people like commit their life to doing like sales and outreach, so it's...
Yeah, the simple is more effective, I find.
No, definitely. When people, a lot of these like, I don't want to say anything I shouldn't, but like these Indian guys in their outreach, it's like clearly copied and pasted off ChatGPT and it's got like emojis in it and stuff. It's like, it's almost like a pitch deck from day one without even introducing yourself. Like, I'm not reading that.
Of course it is. I think that's the old school sales way, right?
Yeah.
So you look at like, construction's rife for it because you get a lot of the old boys, like it's an old boys network, a lot of it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of the old school salesmen. They say things that maybe they shouldn't say. They send you massive pitches all the time. I've got a few of them who, I know them very well now.
Yeah.
And like, they still blooming send me big copy and pasted things like promoting stuff. And I'm like, just, you know me, like, just go about it in a more conversational way.
Yeah.
Like, literally, if you already know me, you could go, oh, hey, Ben, I'm running this event. Just wanted to know if you wanted to come along.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Just like you'd invite them round to, like, a party or something.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be this thing where it's like, you need to give me every single detail.
Yeah.
Qualify if I want to come first.
Yeah,
like,
and then you feed me the rest. What are you excited about at the minute? Like, is the future looking bright, or are you a bit worried? Or
I think I'm still in the stage of like, because I've only been full time with it now for just over 3 months. I'm still in the excitement stage of things. So like, obviously, there has been some like big challenges since I've set up. Probably a lot more than there should be in the first 3 months. But I think for me, the exciting bit is that I explained this to someone the other day. You spend months and months and months, like obviously when you go from doing it 2 days a week to doing it 5 days a week, you then have a lot of time to fill. And you spend months and months and months chipping away to very little reward. And I start to feel like I'm starting to get the reward of that. So like now I'm probably quoting for at least, 1 or 2 pieces of work a week, which obviously they don't all come off, but I'm starting to see progress. And like, if you can do that for a longer period of time, your jobs will start falling in naturally at random, and it won't be like, oh, we're waiting around for this person to start or whatever. So I'm excited to see the progress, and I'm just excited about, I think for a long time, when you first set up a business, you spend a lot of time trying to work out what your best avenue to market is, and you're trying to refine what your vision is, what you are doing for moving forward. I think I've really found my niche. I found the problem that I can really help people with, and it's getting a lot of good reception. So I really want to just push on and hone in on that now.
So if you extrapolate the line of growth, it's going in the right direction. That's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously no business is linear, right?
No,
so
definitely not.
That's one of the hardest and most exciting bits about being a business owner is you have the highest highs and the lowest lows, and a lot of the time, especially early on, you experience them on your own, right? So, but I think a lot of business owners, because they have big ambitions and they know where they want to be, they're also like the biggest critics on themselves, and they don't necessarily reflect on the progress they've made. And I'm starting to be a bit more easy on myself and take a step back and go, look at this progress that you've made. Like, because even if you go back to the thing of I went full time with this business in under a year, like some people it takes them years to go full time with business.
Some people like just think for so long.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
even then it's like they can't, even when they do it, they can't get the quality or the quantity of clients to go full time with it. And I was very lucky that obviously I had the background that I have, but it's just like, because I made so much progress very quickly, I think one thing that I maybe didn't account for was when I was doing it part-time, I pumped every pound I made back into the business so you grow a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But then when you go full-time and you're like, hang on a minute, I've got to pay myself now and all this other stuff, it does slow down your growth. And I think some of the projections that I made at the start of the year, I probably won't make them in the rate and the time frame in which I wanted to.
It's the whole £10,000 a month, like, big goal that everyone aims for.
Of course it is.
Some people seem to make it quite fast, but I think that's just what you hear about. For the majority of people, it just takes ages.
Of course, yeah. I think any successful business owner who I know, it's never the first business.
Yeah.
And it's never as quick as they make out. So, like, whilst, a few of the guys at the coffee club, for example, they've only burst on the social scene, like on social media and everything, in the last year or two. They might have been running a business for going on 10 years. I know some of them have been. And, there's a couple of people there who, do sort of 6-figure months and stuff like that. And because you only become aware of them in that time, you think, these young lads, they're doing mega money and they must have had it so easy, like they've just rocketed. The reality is by far the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, I think we just like to think that it should be an easier journey than it is. And
I think everyone on social media makes it out to be easy when they're trying to sell something, and it's like...
Of course it is. It's highlight reel. That's one of the big things that's become really popular on LinkedIn in the last couple of years is vulnerability. Right? So no one likes the guy who's like, it's like you said before, no one likes the guy who's like, I've got this car, I've done this, I'm £1 million business, all this sort of stuff. Obviously, you want people to do well. Like, it's not a jealousy thing, but it becomes a thing of, like, if you're talking about it so much, like, there's an insecurity there. And it's funny, right? Because I follow a couple of debt collectors on LinkedIn. And it's a really useful thing to do because what they do is they post and tag the people who owe the money, and they say how much they owe, right? So I find it really interesting because people who I know, not know personally, but know in a wider sense, have been on there listed, and it's really, really interesting because some of them are like big social media followings. They have the Range Rovers, they have the all the fancy stuff. And then they get listed on here and they're like, oh, they owe, 50 grand or whatever. And you're like, it's odd. You never know what to believe on social media. It's all smoke and mirrors, isn't it?
Yeah, because the person with the nice car is not necessarily the rich person, because all of their money is in that car, and every month they're paying for that car with like half of. It's like you see so many like crap terrace houses, and they've got some like nice car outside. It's like that is just the definition of a bad financial decision.
It is. I mean,
if that's what makes them happy. But, yeah.
It comes down to priorities, doesn't it? Some people get fulfillment out of a car, so you might have a nice car, and you might not be as bothered about where you live, or you might not be as bothered about your clothes. Fair enough, crack on.
Yeah.
But it's when you do it. It's when you live beyond your means, right? So a lot of people do live beyond the means, and that's partly because of social media, and there's an expectation to keep up. But especially owning a business, because as I said before, it's high and low. Like you can be on a high if you adjust to that lifestyle. Like if I have a good month and I go, oh, I'm going to go buy a Porsche, let's sign up to a Porsche. The reality is
on like a monthly payment.
Yeah.
That suits what you earn that month, but
it
might not suit the next month.
If I sign up to a car on £1,000 a month, it might be all right for the next 2 months. So then what happens when I have a month where I don't get any work? You're in trouble then.
You're on Debt Collector's LinkedIn page.
And it's I think a lot of people do that. It is hard because I know, especially as a young business owner, right?
Yeah.
When I was younger, I remember the first time I did, I think when I was like 22, 23, I did a month that was like £6,000 a month. And like, as I say, I come from Rochdale. Like, I always make this joke that the only people I know who own businesses are drug dealers, right? And £6,000 a month in Rochdale is like unfathomable, right? Like you don't grow up experiencing or hearing of that level of money. I didn't make any money for the next 2 months because I was fulfilling those projects. And you go, right, okay.
You were so busy, doing that work,
you just go, you think you're the big one for a short space of time.
But it was an average, it averaged out.
Yeah, averages out, of course it does throughout the year. A lot of business owners and people outside of business don't get that. So if you say...
look at an annual income rather than a monthly income.
And the other thing is you got to remember you pay tax at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And like my mates used to go to me, they're like, oh, people are paying you a few £1,000s to do stuff, like you must be rolling in it. And I go, yeah, but you haven't just seen the blooming tax bill I've got, or you haven't just seen like the fact that I've got to pay X amount to keep the business going before I actually do anything. Like I don't pocket that, and that's probably the biggest misconception about businesses.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, we'll do the final closing tradition, which is, what's one thing that you hope the listener will take away from this episode?
I think it's two things. Okay, so I think one is the power of networking, right? So obviously I've been fairly open that I built my whole career on networking. I think that the more conversations you have, the better you understand your client. And then that knocks on to my second one of understand the problem, understand the people. So that again goes back to networking, have those conversations and really hone in and understand that problem before you start trying to sell anything, because, not before, but it enables you to sell things at a larger quantity.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you, Ben, for coming on the podcast.
No worries. Thank you for having me.